Hi, how you doing? It's the Aaron Michael Show, Packer postgame edition. Packers get a 27-16 win today over the Denver Broncos. Packers go to 3-0 on the season. If you want to get a hold of the program, you can do that. The email address is aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. And as always, you can follow along on Twitter. I am at Wisconsin Aaron. Would love to have you follow along there. Okay. Let me start out by saying this. When you sign the massive contract that Aaron Rodgers did, I get to critique your bad play. I get to point out when you are playing poorly. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to reality. That's how it works. When that much money is being put into one single player, that one single player is going to be held to a higher standard than somebody else. If Aaron Rodgers throws one in the dirt, making as much money as he is, that can be pointed out. It's going to be pointed out more than it is with Tim Boyle. Valdez-Scantling has had a few drops this season. He dropped a third down play today. I didn't criticize him. He's a second-year player who we have not seen what his ceiling is. We don't know what to expect from him. He has no set expectations. And he's not making that much money. You're not going to criticize that. If Devontae Adams drops a third down pass, that's going to be criticized more than Valdez-Scantling, more than Kumaro, because the expectations aren't there. And part of the reason that the expectations aren't there is because the money is not being spent in that spot. So when you're Rodgers and you're getting paid that much money, I get to count your bad passes. And I get to count how many times you pass up open receivers. I get to count how many times you run around, you don't throw the ball, and you just throw it away. Or I get to count how many times you just throw a ball into the dirt. Now, Rodgers is still Rodgers. He still makes some good throws, and he still makes some good plays. And he's going to do that because he is Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to completely lose that. But like I said last week, and I'm going to say it again today, if you're a Packer fan and you've been watching Rodgers for his entire career and you don't notice a difference in him the last three and a half years, I fear for your health if you can't see a difference. Now, because you criticize Rodgers and you get some people that come back to, wow, what's the big deal? The defense is playing really good. The defense is what's going to carry this team. Oh, and he doesn't have all the weapons that he used to have. And that's okay. Maybe the defense is going to carry this team, and it looks like that is going to be the case, at least for the time being, while the offense still starts to settle in. But again, you can make up any excuse that you want for Rodgers. He doesn't have the same players as he had. Well, he doesn't have Jennings and Cobb and Jordy and whoever else. But he's getting paid all that money. You don't pay money that big to somebody and then lower your expectations. In what manner in this life does that apply? When do you ever do that? When do you say, well, it's okay, we paid you big money, you're getting paid more than you ever have, now it's time to lower our expectations of you? That just doesn't happen. And why Packer fans think that it's okay that it happens in this situation, or that they think it's not okay to point that out, is beyond me. That's garbage. When you get paid more, your expectations go up. Okay? If you're a lawyer, you have higher expectations than the person at McDonald's. Okay, what's a bigger deal? If a lawyer loses a big case, or if McDonald's forgets to put pickles on your hamburger? You're going to criticize the guy who's making more money. It's that simple. That is reality. When you get paid, and when you get paid a high amount, your expectations likewise also go up. Now, Packer offense looked sharp on the first drive. They came out pretty fast like they did last week. You had the quick start. You had the long pass to MVS on the free play. That was good. But then the second series of the game was ugly. Penalties, a few ugly throws by Rodgers, overshooting his receivers, throws that weren't even catchable. And that's when the offense started downhill. They did get some help from the defense, which is the defense we'll get into in a second here. But the offense did get some help with the defense. They only had 5 yards to go right before halftime. for the Aaron Jones touchdown after they got a fumble recovery. The offense was helped out by the defense. They wouldn't have put up as many points as they did today if it wasn't for the defense, which I'm okay with in theory. Again, I'm okay with that. After all the years of watching the bad defense with the Packers, I'm totally good with them carrying the team. What I'm not good with is them fully carrying the team when you got a quarterback making as much money as Aaron Rodgers is. And that is where the major problem comes in. Yes, do guys get old? Yes. Is Rodgers getting older? Yes. Has he had some injuries to deal with? Yes. Is he getting all that money? Also, yes. So don't lower your expectations for Rodgers just because he's making that money. He's making that much money. Expectations should not be lowered for it. For him. Packer defense, as far as they were concerned today, Phillip Lindsay and frankly the entire running game of the Denver Broncos ran kind of all over the Packer defense. In a second here, I'll pull up numbers on that and see. We'll look at the final results. But Lindsay had a good game, and so did Royce Freeman. So look at it right now. I mean, the yards per carry weren't that great for Lindsay, but He really, it seemed like the entire game, the Broncos ran the ball through the Packer defense. Lindsay had 81 yards, 21 carries, and Freeman had 15 carries for 63 yards. I mean, the yards per carry is not that great for Denver, 3.9 yards for Lindsay. Freeman had 4.2, but they seemed like they were running the ball at will, and the offensive line for the Denver Broncos was blowing open some pretty big holes for them. But the big issue for the Packer defense was the tackling. Now, the good news is that the Packer defense still carried the day, and they won this game for the Packers, and they did that by getting stops when they needed to, and also the turnovers. The turnovers were big time. Jair Alexander, I always say his name. I don't pay attention to that. Alexander. He is one hell of a player. He had the fumble recovery today where on a first down play, he just grabbed that ball, ripped it out of the receiver's hands, and he took it for himself. And he also had a tip ball in the end zone that he prevented a touchdown on. Well, maybe that was a kind of a high throw. It may not have been a touchdown, but it was still a good play. But he's all over the place. He is solid. He is good. Preston and Zadarius Smith both had good games. Preston Smith had a sack, forced a fumble. I think was Zadarius Smith end up with two sacks today. We'll have to check that. But you know what's great is, if Ted Thompson were still there, instead of the free agent signings of the Smiths, you would have Clay Matthews and Nick Perry, and the Broncos probably would have won this game today because the two Smiths that you signed as free agents to replace those guys who the Packers, those Perry and Matthews just became your typical establishment Packer players. They were there. Once in a while they would make plays, but never in ways that would really impact games, especially later on. But it's great to see the free agent signings that the Packers made, whether it be Amos or the Smiths the last couple of weeks and including today. It's great to see those free agent signings come in and do what they were brought in to do, which is make impact plays and help win games, and they did that today. But overall, and I know some people are starting to get worried. Well, no, it's starting to look like the old Packer defense. I'm not going to argue with that, but I will say this. I'm not worried about them right now. I'm going to hold off on worrying about Green Bay's defense until it becomes a constant issue. First couple of preseason games, tackling was an issue, and that showed back up today. I mean, the tackling was very poor. The one touchdown, who was it? Dean Lowry, I believe it was, had Lindsay wrapped up at like the 3-yard line, and they had him stopped, and they were able to push through, and he was still able to get a touchdown. I mean, you're talking about the smallest guy out there on the field, little guy, 5'8". He's a smaller, quicker runner, and he was able to break too many tackles. And there was a lot of poor tackling today. That's going to have to get better for the Packer defense. Now, I feel better about the Packers fixing problems like that with Matt LaFleur there. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to mention this. For those of you who are the Aaron Rodgers apologists, or if you're sick of hearing them, You know that one drive where it was a 3-and-out, Rodgers threw 2 balls into the dirt. Did you see Matt LaFleur's face? He was not pleased. And he wasn't upset about the way the Packer offense was running or the play calls of that series. No, you look at him, and then he went over and talked to Rodgers. You look at that look on his face. LaFleur was not happy with Aaron Rodgers. Just as many of you, just as I was not. Anyway, got off topic there for a second. What I was going to say is that when you see a problem like the tackling defense and all the missed tackles, with LaFleur, I feel so much better than I did with Mike McCarthy, because this is a classic game where Mike McCarthy would come out after and he, coach, the defense had X amount of missed tackles today. What was that? The reason behind that? And this is the type of game where McCarthy come out and say, well, hell, I think our defense did a hell of a job tackling. I think we got the best tackling defense of the NFL. And then it would never get fixed. With LaFleur, I feel pretty confident that they're going to fix that. They did it after the few preseason games where it was an issue. And LaFleur will come out and he'll actually admit that the problem exists, which, as anyone knows, is going to be step number 1 in fixing said problem, is acknowledging that it's there. And LaFleur will not be shy about doing that. He's not going to be, oh, what the hell, are you just looking to write the one negative story this week? No, you're just admitting that there was a issue and that there was a problem that needs to be addressed. And LaFleur will be willing to look at that, and he'll be willing to address that problem. And because of that, I think it'll get fixed. So I'm not overly concerned about the Packer defense. I got a lot of faith in LaFleur. I got a lot of faith in Patton that those guys are going to take the week, even on a short week here, and they'll fix the tackling problem. But that was something that we hadn't seen yet through the first 2 games. Just the missed tackles, which was obviously an issue today. Something else positive, though, from the defense, where obviously this has been a topic of conversation, and it got better today. Should make you feel more confident after today. How about Rashawn Gary? He had a sack. He had a fumble recovery. He also got hurt, but he came back in. But he had a good game. He showed up, and he played well. So hopefully that will put some people's mind at ease who are worried that he might be a bust, and which is hard. I mean, I'm never going to call somebody a bust after just a off-season workouts, training camp, preseason, and then 3 regular season games. But that should give you some confidence. You saw some flashes today from Gary. And again, like I said last week about him, he's going to have a little bit of a harder time getting out onto the field just because there's a lot of depth at the positions that he plays. That pass rusher position, you got the Smiths, you got Fackrell. It's going to be, you got safeties who come up and who can play a hybrid position. There's a lot of guys who are fighting Gary for snaps, and as a rookie, I think he's taking everything in stride. I think he'll be okay. I don't have any reason to be worried about Gary at this point. But Packer defense, it was their worst performance of the year so far. They weren't as stout as they had been in the first couple of games. And a lot of that had to do with the missed tackling. So, were the guys there? They were there to make the stops for the most part. They had guys around the ball, and they failed to make a tackle. But again, I have confidence in LaFleur and in Patton that they'll be able to come out and that they will be able to correct those mistakes that we saw out there today. Just looking at some of the numbers here from the game, Packers offensively, Aaron Rodgers ended the day. He had the one long pass to Valdez-Scantling on that free play in the opening drive, but Rodgers today ended 17 of 29, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Rushing the football, Jamal Williams had more carries today than Aaron Jones. And Williams, he's fun to watch. He gets some of those, and we've seen this the last few years of him. He gets some of those carries where he's just not going to go down. And he'll plow over, and you get a big scrum, and he's just going to keep pushing. He had a good game today. He had 12 carries, more carries than Jones, like I said. He had 12 carries, 59 yards, and 4.9 yards per carry average. Now, Jones had a lot harder time of it. Even though he had the touchdowns, he only 10 carries, 19 yards, 1.9 yards per carry. Valdez-Scantling led the way receiving, 6 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown. He was targeted 10 times. So Rodgers, for somebody who he evidently, they say, doesn't trust, went to him 10 times today. Adams was only targeted 4 times. He had 4 carries, 56 yards. Jamal Williams also had 2 catches for 27 yards. So a good game for Jamal Williams today. 59 yards on the ground, 27 yards through the air. Aaron Jones, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, 1 touchdown, like I said. But the turnovers, that was big. That was big. Darnell Savage had the interception. You know, it's good. I mentioned before the free agent signings that the Packers had and how they're showing immediate payoff. That's fun. To see your money be put to good use. But how about also the draft picks of the last couple of years, but particularly this? I mean, I already talked about Alexander. He looks great. He's destined to be one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But Savage, interception as a draft pick. Also, Rashawn Gary had the fumble recovery, a sack. So you're getting some good, quick returns on this Packer defense from your free agent signings and also the guys that you drafted too. On the Broncos side, Joe Flacco, 20 of 29, 213 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. I thought he played well. I thought he threw more accurately overall than Rodgers did today. Yeah, that's going to throw people into convulsions, isn't it? I shouldn't have said that. That's just, you have to learn to play the game to keep the Twitter mob at bay. That's the key. Philip Lindsay, we already touched on this. He had 81 yards. Royce Freeman, 63 yards. But again, Packers 3-0. I'm not complaining about the 3-0 start. I'm, again, folks, as I always do, project into the future. And at some point, as much as this defense carries the team, if Rodgers doesn't start playing like his money, I mean, folks, there's only here's the deal. Again, there's only so much money to go around, and if the defense is good, and they're young, and they're not paying out a lot of big contracts on that side of the ball. But folks, at some point, when you're sticking that much money into Rodgers, he's going to have to go out there, and he's going to have to do more than he is. I'm projecting into the future. I don't care. They're 3-0. We're only 3 weeks into the season. I'm looking towards the playoffs. And I'm saying, okay, if Rodgers, and he's got time to figure it out. LaFleur's got time to get through to him. And I hope that happens. I'm projecting already into the playoffs. And if Rodgers doesn't start playing like the money that he's making, it's going to hurt the Packers in the playoffs. He's got to play better than he did. Maybe he's never going to get back to what he was in the prime of his prime. But he's got to get closer to that than he is now. Or I'm telling you, you can bury your head in the sand all you want because the Packers are 3-0. But I'm telling you, folks, mark my words on this. If he does not get better, it is going to hurt the Packers come playoff time. Now, he might get better before then. I hope he does. But if he doesn't, it's going to hurt the Packers come playoff time. Packers today get a win. They beat the Denver Broncos at Lambeau Field. Improved to 3-0. Packers get a 27-16 victory. Thank you for listening to the Aaron Michael Show post-game edition. As always, fan mail can be sent to aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. Also, make sure you're following along on Twitter @WisconsinAaron. We'll be back later this week. Have a good night.